The expansion of Mali's power. With the passing of the early successors of Sundiata Keita, the Mali Empire entered a new phase of growth. Though the founding generation was gone, the structures they had built remained strong. The empire was stable, its economy thriving, and its armies disciplined. Now, the time had come for Mali to expand its power beyond the Mandi heartland and assert itself as the dominant force of West Africa. A new era of ambition. The rulers who followed Sundiata and Wali Keita understood that peace alone was not enough. To maintain unity and authority, Mali needed to grow. Expansion would not only bring wealth and glory, but also strengthen loyalty among the provinces by offering new opportunities for trade and conquest. During this period, the empire extended its influence across the Sahel and the savannas, absorbing neighboring kingdoms through diplomacy, alliances, and sometimes war. The Malians believed that every region united under their banner brought new harmony to the world of the Mande. The Great Generals and Campaigns. Mali's expansion was carried out by a series of skilled generals, many of whom had been trained in the traditions of Sundiata's army. They were brave, disciplined, and loyal to the Keita dynasty. Through their campaigns, the empire reached the Gambia and Senegal rivers to the west and extended deep into the Niger Bend in the east. Important trade cities such as Gao, Timbuktu, and Wallata came under Mali's control or influence. These cities were vital to the empire's economy. They were crossroads for merchants from the north, south, and east, where salt, gold, and knowledge were exchanged in equal measure. Each conquest was followed not by destruction, but by integration. Local rulers were often allowed to remain in power as long as they paid tributes and respected Mali's laws. This policy helped the empire grow without constant rebellion. The strength of the army. Mali's army remained one of the most formidable in Africa. It was composed of professional soldiers, archers, and horsemen, supported by local militias in times of war. The empire's wealth allowed it to maintain large forces and supply them with food and weapons. The cavalry, especially, became the symbol of Mali's might. Mounted warriors, dressed in leather armor and armed with spears, could move swiftly across the open plains. Their discipline and organization gave Mali a clear advantage over its rivals. The empire also built fortresses and stationed garrisons in strategic locations to secure trade routes and borders. These outposts became centers of administration and commerce, further spreading Mali's influence. Diplomacy and trade expansion. While the army expanded Mali's borders, diplomacy extended its prestige. Envoys and traders carried the emperor's name to distant courts in North Africa and even as far as Egypt. The rulers of Mali were known as Mansas, and their word commanded respect across the Sahara. Trade flourished more than ever. Gold from the mines of Bambouk, Bouré, and Wangara continued to enrich the empire. In return, salt, cloth, horses, and fine goods arrived from the north. The empire also became a hub for cultural and intellectual exchange. Scholars and traders from across Africa came to Mali's cities, spreading new ideas, languages, and customs. The integration of peoples. One of the secrets of Mali's success was its ability to bring together many different peoples under one empire. Mande, Soninke, Fulani, Tuareg, and other groups all lived within its borders. The Mansa's government encouraged cooperation and respected local traditions. Governors appointed by the emperor ensured loyalty, but local chiefs continued to oversee their own people according to custom. This system of shared power created a balance that allowed the empire to grow peacefully. The empire at its peak of expansion. By the end of this period, the Mali Empire had become the most powerful state in West Africa. Its borders touched the Atlantic Ocean to the west and the great cities of the Niger in the east. Its wealth, organization, and reputation for justice made it admired even beyond Africa. Travelers and merchants spoke of Mali as a land where law and order prevailed, where trade was free, and where even the poorest were protected by imperial justice. The empire's influence shaped politics, trade, and culture across the entire region. The legacy of expansion. The expansion of Mali's power transformed it from a regional kingdom into an empire of continental importance. Its rulers had proven that Sundiata's dream of unity could grow beyond Mande and endure through generations. But with great size came great responsibility. Governing such a vast territory would require wisdom, stability, and vision. The next rulers would face the challenge of not only keeping the empire united, but also ensuring that its prosperity continued. The reign of Mansa Sakura. After years of expansion and prosperity, the Mali Empire witnessed one of the most remarkable chapters in its history, the reign of Mansa Sakura. His story was unlike that of any other ruler before him. Born a slave within the empire, Sakura rose from captivity to become emperor, proving that greatness was not always born of noble blood, but of courage, intelligence, and destiny. From slave to soldier, Sakura's origins were humble. He was once a servant in the royal court, known for his strength, discipline, and sharp mind. Through dedication and bravery, he earned his freedom and joined the imperial army. His rise through the ranks was swift. As a soldier, he displayed unmatched loyalty to the empire and exceptional skill in both strategy and leadership. Commanders respected him, soldiers followed him without question. In time, he became one of the empire's most trusted generals, defending Mali's frontiers and ensuring peace across its provinces. The path to the throne. When internal disputes shook the royal family after the death of Amansa, chaos threatened the unity of the empire. Different factions within the Keita clan competed for power, weakening Mali's control over its distant provinces. During this crisis, the army, weary of instability, turned to Sakura. Though not of royal blood, he had proven himself as a leader capable of restoring order. With the support of the military and the council of elders, Sakura was chosen as Mansa. At first, many doubted his legitimacy, but his actions soon silenced every voice of opposition. He ruled not through fear, but through justice, discipline, and vision. A just and visionary ruler. As emperor, Mansa Sakura understood the struggles of both the powerful and the humble. Having once lived in servitude, he was determined to rule fairly. He reformed the tax system, ensuring that wealth was distributed more evenly. He strengthened the administration, appointing capable governors based on merit rather than lineage. Sakura also improved the empire's communication and transport systems. Roads were repaired, and new trade routes were secured. Under his rule, merchants traveled safely and markets thrived from the forests of the south to the desert towns of the north. Justice became the foundation of his reign. Disputes were settled quickly, corruption was punished, and the people began to see him as a symbol of fairness and integrity. The conquest of Mansa Sakura.
Though a man of peace, Sakura was also a formidable warrior. He launched several successful military campaigns to restore Mali's authority over rebellious territories and to expand its borders further than ever before. His armies moved westward to the Atlantic coast, bringing the lands of the Senegal River under firm control. To the east, he pushed deep into the Niger Bend, strengthening ties with the trade cities of Gao and Timbuktu. Sakura also sent expeditions into the forest regions of modern-day Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, establishing Mali's influence over the gold and colonite trade. These campaigns not only expanded Mali's territory, but also secured new sources of wealth, diplomacy, and international prestige. Under Sakura, Mali's reputation spread far beyond West Africa. He maintained strong diplomatic relations with North African states and with the Muslim world. Merchants from Egypt, Morocco, and the Maghreb spoke of Mali as a land of justice and prosperity. According to tradition, Mansa Sakura even undertook the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj. His journey was marked by generosity and discipline, earning him respect among Arab scholars and rulers. He returned to Mali with new ideas in governance and trade, reinforcing the empire's role as a center of both wealth and faith. The legacy of Mansa Sakura. Mansa Sakura's reign marked a golden era of renewal for the Mali Empire. He restored unity after internal strife, expanded its borders, and established a model of leadership based on merit, justice, and wisdom. Though his life began in chains, he ruled with dignity and purpose. His story became a legend, a reminder that greatness can rise from the humblest beginnings. Under his leadership, Mali stood stronger and prouder than ever. The empire was ready for the next stage, one that would bring even greater fame to its name under rulers whose deeds would echo across history.
The rise of Mansa Musa, the Golden King of Mali. After the reign of Mansa Sakura, the Mali Empire entered an age of glory that would make it known across the world. This golden age began under the rule of Mansa Musa, perhaps the greatest emperor in the history of Mali and one of the most powerful rulers the world has ever known. His reign not only expanded the empire's borders, but also elevated its culture, economy, and reputation to heights never before imagined. The early life of Musa. Musa was a member of the Keita dynasty, descended from the royal lineage of Sundiata himself. Before he became emperor, he served as a deputy ruler during a period of royal absence, a position of great responsibility that prepared him for leadership. From his youth, he was known for his intelligence, discipline, and devotion to learning and religion. He was deeply committed to Islam, and his sense of justice and generosity made him loved among both nobles and commoners. The path to power. When the throne of Mali became vacant, Musa's leadership qualities and reputation made him the natural choice to succeed. His ascension was welcomed by the nobles and supported by the people. At that time, the empire was vast and powerful, but it needed strong guidance to manage its wealth and growing influence. Musa understood this challenge. He knew that Mali's true power lay not only in its gold, but in its people, its learning, and its faith. The empire under Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa began to reorganize the empire with precision and vision. He appointed governors and ministers who were loyal and competent, ensuring that every province was efficiently managed. He strengthened trade across the Sahara, improving the security of caravans and the safety of merchants. Gold, salt, ivory, and slaves were exchanged for textiles, horses, and fine goods from North Africa and beyond. Under his reign, the cities of Timbuktu, Gao, and Walata grew into great centers of commerce, learning, and culture. Mali became the beating heart of West Africa's economy. The pilgrimage to Mecca. The defining moment of Mansa Musa's reign came with his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in the year 1324.
Determined to fulfill his religious duty, Musa embarked on a journey that would change the way the world saw Mali forever. He traveled with a vast entourage, thousands of soldiers, officials, merchants, and servants, and hundreds of camels carrying gold. Along the way, he displayed unmatched generosity, giving alms to the poor and gifts to rulers and scholars. In Cairo, his arrival caused a sensation. His wealth was so immense that the gifts of gold he distributed temporarily affected the city's economy. The stories of his pilgrimage spread across the Arab world and into Europe, placing Mali on the maps of scholars and explorers. Mansa Musa's journey demonstrated not only his devotion to Islam, but also the empire's unmatched prosperity and power. The cultural and educational renaissance. Upon his return to Mali, Musa sought to transform his empire into a beacon of knowledge and faith. He invited architects, scholars, and artists from across Africa and the Middle East to settle in Mali. Under his patronage, Timbuktu flourished as a center of Islamic learning. The Sankore University and other schools attracted students from across the region. Libraries were built, books were copied, and knowledge became a symbol of power. Mansa Musa also commissioned the construction of grand mosques, the most famous being the Djinguerberi Mosque in Timbuktu, a masterpiece of pseudo-Sahelian architecture that still stands today. The wealth of Mali. Under Mansa Musa, Mali's economy reached its height. The empire controlled the gold mines of Bambouk, Bure, and Wangara, which were among the richest in the world. Caravans traveled in every direction, carrying Mali's goods across the desert and bringing back treasures from faraway lands. The empire's prosperity was unmatched. Its wealth was not only material, but also intellectual and spiritual. Mali had become a symbol of balance between power, faith, and wisdom. The legacy of Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa's reign changed the course of history. He transformed Mali into one of the greatest empires of the medieval world and ensured that its fame reached across continents. Arab historians, European mapmakers, and African storytellers all spoke of the Golden King of Mali, whose rule inspired generations to come and set a model of leadership grounded in justice, learning, and prosperity. When Mansa Musa died, he left behind an empire that was not only vast and wealthy, but also respected and admired by the entire known world. The Golden Age of Learning and Culture in Timbuktu. After the reign of Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire entered a period of unmatched cultural and intellectual brilliance. Nowhere was this more visible than in the city of Timbuktu, which became the heart of knowledge, faith, and commerce in West Africa. This was Mali's golden age of learning and culture, a time when ideas and education were valued as much as gold itself. The rise of Timbuktu. Timbuktu began as a small settlement near the Niger River, founded by Tuareg traders. Its strategic location made it a vital meeting point for merchants coming from the Sahara, the Sahel, and the forest regions to the south. When Mansa Musa incorporated Timbuktu into the empire, he recognized its potential as more than a trading post. He transformed it into a center of scholarship and religion, building mosques, schools, and libraries that would attract scholars from across Africa and beyond. The City of Knowledge. Under the protection of the empire, Timbuktu became a safe and prosperous city where learning flourished. Scholars came from regions such as Egypt, Morocco, and even Andalusia to teach and exchange knowledge. The Sankore University, along with the Djinguereber and Sidi Yaha mosques, served as centers of higher education. There, students studied theology, law, astronomy, mathematics, history, and literature. Teaching was conducted in Arabic, but local languages and traditions also played a role in spreading ideas. Education was not limited to the elite. Wealthy families sponsored the education of talented youth, and knowledge was seen as a form of wealth greater than gold itself. The Scholars of Mali. The scholars of Timbuktu were respected across Africa and the Islamic world. They produced works of philosophy, science, and jurisprudence that influenced generations. Many of their writings were preserved in manuscripts that survive to this day, stored in private libraries and family collections. One of the most important features of Timbuktu's intellectual life was the copying and preservation of manuscripts. Skilled scribes worked tirelessly to reproduce books by hand, ensuring that knowledge was never lost. These manuscripts covered diverse subjects, from medicine and mathematics to poetry and politics. The role of religion. Islam played a central role in Mali's intellectual renaissance. The empire's leaders, while tolerant of traditional African beliefs, encouraged the spread of Islam as a unifying faith. Mosques were built in every major city, and religious education was integrated with secular studies. Imams and scholars worked closely with rulers, providing counsel on governance, justice, and ethics. The Malians' version of Islam, however, was deeply African. It blended respect for ancestral values with devotion to learning and community life. This balance between tradition and faith created a distinctive culture admired by all who visited. Trade and wealth in the Golden Age. Timbuktu's prosperity was not only intellectual but also economic. The city stood at the crossroads of trans-Saharan trade routes, linking Mali with North Africa and the Middle East. Caravans arrived daily, carrying salt, gold, ivory, textiles, and books. In return, merchants brought luxury goods, fine horses, and foreign knowledge. The wealth generated by this trade supported the city's scholars and artisans, creating a society that valued both commerce and culture. The gold of Mali continued to flow through Timbuktu, enriching not only the empire but also distant lands that depended on its trade. Art, architecture, and cultural expression. This period also saw the flourishing of art and architecture. Inspired by both local traditions and Islamic design, Mali's architects created some of the most remarkable structures in Africa. The Jingireber Mosque, built during Mansa Musa's time, became a symbol of faith and learning. Constructed from earth and timber, it demonstrated how beauty and practicality could coexist in harmony with the environment. Music, oral poetry, and storytelling also thrived. Griots, the guardians of history and tradition, continued to preserve the empire's past through epic songs and tales that connected each generation to its ancestors. The reputation of Timbuktu. By the height of this era, Timbuktu's fame had spread far beyond Africa. Arab historians described it as a land of scholars and gold. European mapmakers placed it on their charts as a mysterious and wealthy city at the edge of the known world. Travelers and merchants who reached its gates spoke of its libraries, its schools, and its spirit of peace and prosperity. To them, Timbuktu symbolized the perfect union between wealth, wisdom, and faith. The legacy of Mali's Golden Age. The intellectual and cultural achievements of this period shaped West African civilization for centuries. Timbuktu became a light of knowledge that continued to shine long after the empire's political power began to fade. The manuscripts, teachings, and traditions born during this era preserved Africa's contributions to global learning, proof that the continent had been a center of civilization and wisdom long before the modern age. The Golden Age of Mali was not only a time of riches, but also of enlightenment, a moment when knowledge became the empire's greatest treasure.
The administration and governance of the Mali Empire. The strength and longevity of the Mali Empire were not due to military power or wealth alone. At its heart was a sophisticated system of administration and governance that ensured stability, justice, and order across a vast and diverse territory. This structure, first established by Sundiata Keita and perfected under later rulers like Mansa Musa, became one of the most effective forms of government in pre-colonial Africa. The foundations of imperial authority. The emperor, known as the Mansa, stood at the center of Mali's political system. He was considered both a ruler and a guardian of the people, entrusted with divine authority to maintain peace and justice. The Mansa's word was law, but his power was balanced by counsel and tradition. The throne was hereditary within the Keita dynasty, though succession was not always direct. Competence, wisdom, and the support of nobles often influence who would ascend the throne. Each new Mansa had to prove his legitimacy through leadership, generosity, and respect for the empire's customs. The Imperial Council. Assisting the emperor was a powerful body known as the Gabara, or Great Assembly. This council was composed of nobles, ministers, and representatives of the major clans. It served as an advisory group, ensuring that important decisions reflected the interests of the entire empire. The Gabara was divided into four main groups: the governors and military chiefs, responsible for the empire's defense and expansion; the nobles and administrators, who managed provinces and collected tribute; the religious leaders, who provided spiritual guidance and upheld moral order; and the griots and historians, who preserved laws, traditions, and the memory of past rulers. No major policy or war could be declared without consultation with this council. It symbolized the cooperative nature of governance in Mali, where power was shared between the emperor and his advisors. The provincial system. The empire covered an immense area, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Niger River. To govern such a large territory, the Mansa divided the empire into provinces, each ruled by a governor, or pharaon. These governors were often members of the royal family or trusted generals. They were responsible for maintaining peace, collecting taxes, and enforcing imperial law within their regions. In return, they enjoyed considerable autonomy as long as they remained loyal to the Mansa. Local chiefs and village leaders were allowed to keep their authority, provided they paid tribute and recognized Mali's supremacy. This policy of decentralized governance helped the empire maintain stability and minimize rebellion. Justice and law. Justice was one of the pillars of the Mali Empire. The Mansa was regarded as the ultimate judge, but local courts also operated throughout the provinces. Disputes were resolved according to a blend of customary law and Islamic principles, reflecting Mali's cultural diversity. At the heart of this system was the belief that justice ensured harmony between the people and the state. Corruption and abuse of power were severely punished, and even the poorest subjects could appeal to higher authorities for fair treatment. This commitment to justice made Mali respected among neighboring kingdoms. Foreign traders often remarked that the roads of Mali were safe and that disputes were settled swiftly and fairly. The economic administration. The empire's administration was closely linked to its economy. Gold, salt, and agricultural production formed the foundation of Mali's wealth. The Mansa controlled the gold trade, regulating its export to ensure that the empire's economy remained stable. Taxes were collected on goods that passed through markets and trade routes. The revenues supported the army, the royal court, and public works such as roads, mosques, and schools. Trade officials and inspectors were stationed in major cities like Timbuktu, Go, and Niani to oversee markets and ensure fairness. Weights, measures, and prices were carefully monitored to prevent fraud. The role of the army.
The empire's administration depended heavily on its army. A well-organized military force protected trade routes, secured borders, and maintained peace within the empire. The army was divided into specialized units, infantry, cavalry, and archers, each commanded by experienced officers. Soldiers were well-trained and loyal to the Mansa, receiving food, land, and payment for their service. The empire's power rested not on conquest alone, but on its ability to defend its people and uphold order. Communication and control. Despite its vast size, Mali remained remarkably well governed. A network of roads and messengers connected distant provinces to the imperial capital. Couriers carried news, decrees, and reports between cities, ensuring that the emperor remained informed about all regions of his realm. The Niger River also served as a vital communication route, linking inland cities with trade posts to the north and south. The balance of power and tradition. One of the great strengths of the Mali Empire was its ability to combine tradition with innovation. While Islam influenced its laws and education, traditional Mande values continued to guide leadership and community life. This balance between faith, culture, and governance created a sense of unity that held the empire together for centuries. The Mansa ruled not as a tyrant, but as the father of his people, protector of both their wealth and their dignity. The legacy of Mali's governance. The administrative system of the Mali Empire became a model for later West African states. Its blend of centralized leadership, local autonomy, and moral authority allowed it to govern millions of people effectively. Historians and travelers admired the empire for its order, fairness, and prosperity. Even centuries later, the memory of Mali's good governance remained a symbol of African statecraft at its finest.
The daily life and society of the Mali Empire. While the rulers and scholars of the Mali Empire shaped its destiny, the true strength of the empire came from its people. Farmers, traders, artisans, soldiers, and griots together formed a society built on cooperation, respect, and hard work. Understanding their daily life reveals the human heart of one of Africa's greatest civilizations. The structure of society. Mali society was organized around clans, professions, and loyalty to the empire. Though the emperor or Mansa stood at the top, society functioned through a carefully balanced hierarchy that valued every person's role. At the highest levels were the nobles, governors, military leaders, and royal family members who managed the provinces and advised the emperor. Beneath them were the freemen, including merchants, farmers, and artisans, who formed the backbone of the economy. The griots, or storytellers, held a special position. They were the keepers of history and tradition, responsible for preserving the memory of kings and heroes through oral poetry. At the base of society were servants and slaves, who worked in households, farms, and mines. Most were treated as part of the family and could earn their freedom through loyal service. The village and family life. Most Malians lived in villages surrounded by fields of millet, sorghum, and rice. The village was the center of social life, where people worked together, celebrated together, and helped one another in times of need. Families were large and extended, with grandparents, parents, and children often living in the same compound. The head of the family managed the land and ensured that everyone contributed to the community's well-being. Marriage was highly valued, and alliances between families helped strengthen social and economic ties. Respect for elders was considered a sacred duty, as they were the guardians of wisdom and tradition. Agriculture and food. Agriculture was the foundation of the empire's wealth.
Farmers cultivated crops along the fertile banks of the Niger River, taking advantage of its seasonal floods. Common crops included millet, rice, beans, and vegetables. In the southern regions, farmers also grew fruits such as bananas and mangoes. Cattle, sheep, and goats were raised for meat, milk, and trade. The people of Mali enjoyed a varied diet. Meals often included thick porridge made from millet or sorghum, served with sauces of fish, meat, or vegetables. Sharing food was a sign of friendship and hospitality. Trade and the market. Trade was a vital part of daily life. Local markets were lively centers of exchange where people bought and sold everything from food to fabrics, pottery, jewelry, and animals. Women played a major role in the market life. They managed stalls, handled money, and ensured the smooth running of trade. Their influence in the economy gave them an important voice in the community. In the cities, larger markets connected Mali to long-distance trade networks. Gold, salt, ivory, and textiles passed through these centers, bringing goods and ideas from across Africa and beyond. Crafts and artisans. Artisans were highly respected for their skill. Blacksmiths forged tools and weapons, potters shaped clay into vessels, and weavers created fine fabrics from cotton. Metal workers were especially honored, as they were believed to possess both technical and spiritual powers. Their craft was considered sacred, linking the physical and spiritual worlds. Art was not merely decoration, it carried meaning. Carvings, jewelry, and fabrics often symbolized family identity, social status, or spiritual protection. Religion and spiritual life. Religion played an essential role in daily life. Islam had become the dominant faith of the empire, especially in cities, but traditional African beliefs continued to thrive alongside it. People prayed in mosques and observed Islamic teachings, yet they also respected ancestral spirits and natural forces. The blending of Islam and traditional spirituality created a culture of tolerance and balance. Religious festivals were moments of joy, music, and community. They strengthened unity and reminded people of their shared destiny. Education and knowledge. Education was highly valued. Boys were taught the Quran, reading, writing, and arithmetic in Islamic schools. In the cities, higher learning flourished in universities like Sankore in Timbuktu. Griots also educated through storytelling, teaching lessons about courage, justice, and loyalty. Their oral traditions preserved not only history, but also moral values that guided everyday life. Learning was seen as a duty, a way to honor both God and one's ancestors. Music, dance, and storytelling. Music and storytelling were central to social life. Every celebration, from weddings to victories, was accompanied by drumming, singing, and dancing. The kora, a stringed instrument made from calabash and hide, was played by griots to accompany epic songs of kings and warriors. Through rhythm and poetry, history was passed down from generation to generation. Music served both joy and purpose. It united people, celebrated their achievements, and kept their traditions alive. Clothing and appearance. Malians wore colorful garments made from cotton and dyed with natural colors. Men often wore tunics and loose trousers, while women dressed in long wraps and headscarves. Gold and silver ornaments, beads, and leather amulets were common symbols of status and beauty. Clothing reflected both regional identity and religious influence. On Fridays and during ceremonies, people wore their finest clothes to show respect for their faith and community. The spirit of community. What held the Mali Empire together was a deep sense of collective identity. Every person, ruler, merchant, farmer, or craftsman saw themselves as part of something greater. Cooperation and respect formed the foundation of daily life. Generosity and hospitality were sacred virtues. Travelers were welcomed with food and shelter, for it was believed that kindness to strangers brought blessings to all.
The economy and the trans-Saharan trade routes. The Mali Empire owed much of its greatness to its powerful and prosperous economy. At the heart of this economic success was the control of trans-Saharan trade routes, vast networks that connected West Africa to North Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. Through these routes flowed gold, salt, ivory, slaves, and knowledge, making Mali one of the richest and most influential empires in the medieval world. The foundation of Mali's wealth. From the earliest days of Sundiata Keita, the leaders of Mali understood that wealth came not only from the land, but from controlling trade and exchange. The empire sat at a crossroads between the gold-producing regions of West Africa and the salt-rich Sahara to the north. By dominating these trade routes, Mali became the main supplier of gold to the Islamic world and Europe during the Middle Ages. Gold from the mines of Bambouk, Bouré, and Wangara was carried by caravans across the desert, enriching both Mali and its trading partners. The role of gold. Gold was the bloodline of Mali's economy. It served as a symbol of power, a source of wealth, and a means of diplomacy. The Mansas carefully controlled its extraction and trade. Common people were allowed to trade gold dust, but only the Mansa could own or export gold nuggets. This policy ensured that the emperor remained the ultimate guardian of wealth and prevented the economy from becoming unstable. Mali's gold was so abundant that it supplied much of the world's demand during the 13th and 14th centuries. Arab and European traders referred to the region as the land of gold. The salt trade. While gold was Mali's greatest export, salt was equally valuable. In the hot climates of West Africa, salt was essential for preserving food and maintaining health. The great salt mines of Tagaza in the Sahara were vital to the empire's economy. Caravans of salt transported blocks southward, where they were exchanged for gold, grain, and slaves. In some areas, salt was even used as currency. People measured its worth in weight, and traders guarded it as carefully as gold. The exchange of gold and salt became one of the most important foundations of Mali's prosperity. The caravans of the Sahara. Trade across the Sahara was long and dangerous. Caravans of camels, often numbering in the hundreds, traveled for weeks or months through deserts and oases. These caravans carried gold, slaves, ivory, and kola nuts northward and returned with salt, textiles, horses, and fine goods from the Islamic world. Camels, known as the ships of the desert, were perfectly suited to this journey. They could travel long distances without water and withstand the heat and dust of the Sahara. Each caravan was organized with care. Experienced guides, merchants, and guards ensured that the goods reached their destinations safely. Along the way, cities like Walata, Timbuktu, and Gao served as resting points and trading hubs. The markets and trade centers. Within the empire, trade thrived in cities and towns connected by well-maintained roads and rivers. Niani, the capital, was a center of administration and commerce. Timbuktu and Gao became world famous for their bustling markets, where traders from across Africa and beyond met to exchange goods and ideas. The markets of Mali were known for their order and fairness. Prices were regulated, and disputes were resolved quickly. Inspectors, appointed by the Mansa,
ensured honesty in trade. Every city had a market day where merchants, farmers, and artisans gathered to sell their products: food, clothing, pottery, tools, and jewelry. These gatherings were not just for trade, but also for social connection and celebration. The River Niger, the lifeline of commerce. The River Niger was one of Mali's greatest natural advantages. It served as a waterway linking distant regions, allowing the transport of goods between inland cities and the Atlantic coast. Boats made of hollowed-out trees carried food, gold, and passengers along its calm waters. The river made trade faster and safer, and the fertile lands along its banks supported rich agricultural communities that supplied the empire's growing population. The role of foreign traders. Mali's trade routes attracted merchants from distant lands: Arabs, Berbers, Egyptians, and later Europeans. These traders brought new products, such as fine textiles, glassware, and horses, as well as new ideas in science, religion, and art. The empire's openness to commerce made it a bridge between Africa and the wider world. It was through these exchanges that Mali's fame spread to cities such as Cairo, Tunis, and even Venice. Foreign merchants were treated with respect and protection. They paid taxes to the empire, but were guaranteed safety and fair treatment, which encouraged more trade. The economy beyond trade. While long-distance trade was vital, Mali's internal economy was equally strong. Agriculture, livestock, and craftsmanship sustained everyday life. Farmers produced grain and rice, herders raised cattle and sheep, artisans created tools, fabrics, and ornaments. Each group played a role in maintaining the balance of the economy. The empire's wealth was therefore not concentrated only in its rulers, but spread throughout society. Every class contributed to the prosperity of Mali. Taxes and the wealth of the state. The government collected taxes on trade goods, market transactions, and provincial revenues. These taxes funded the army, administration, and public works, such as roads and mosques. Because trade was so profitable, taxes were light and merchants remained loyal to the empire. This balance allowed Mali to maintain stability without oppression. The Mansa's treasury overflowed with gold, but wealth was also invested in education, religion, and culture, ensuring that prosperity benefited the entire society. The global influence of Mali's economy. By the 14th century, the Mali Empire had become one of the most important economic powers in the world. Gold from Mali influenced the currencies of Europe and the Islamic world. Arab historians describe Mali as a land of justice and abundance. European mapmakers began to draw it on their charts, often depicting the Mansa holding a golden nugget, a symbol of unimaginable wealth and power. Mali's economy connected continents and cultures, proving that Africa was not isolated, but deeply integrated into the global system of trade and exchange. The legacy of Mali's economic power. The economic strength of Mali Empire left a lasting mark on African and world history. It demonstrated the richness of African civilization and the importance of trade, cooperation, and good governments in building lasting prosperity. Even after the empire declined, the trade routes it created continued to link peoples and cultures across the Sahara for centuries. The Mali Empire's economy was not only about gold or goods, it was about human connection, shared progress, and the belief that prosperity could unite a vast and diverse people under one destiny.